for tonight. Yeah, so here we are, meditation night. And again, I'm leading, my name is Samudraghosha, as you probably mostly know. And yeah, the first in our new series. And the title this evening is Love is Awareness, which you might notice as a flip round from last week's title. Yeah, so this week, Love is Awareness. So yeah, there is a context for this evening, as I've already mentioned, which is the course that we've just started on Who Hates the Metabhavna. Actually, you can still join that course. There are a few places left, but if you want to do that, the deadline is tomorrow. So you'd need to go to the website, and I'll come back to that at the end of the class, and we can post the link in the chat. But yeah, that course is still open. For those who've already got a bit of familiarity with the practice, that is still open. And in that course, what we're doing to begin with is we're taking an approach of really looking at the receptive dimension of the metabhavna, the loving kindness practice. So really learning to, instead of trying to cultivate something, which is ultimately what the practice is about, bhavna is cultivation, metta, loving kindness. Instead of cultivating actively, we're focusing on just being aware of what's actually happening now, which I would say is key to all meditation. So that's the approach we're taking in the course, and that's what we'll be doing tonight. So being aware of our actual responses rather than what we think should be happening when we bring people to mind. A quote came to my mind in connection with the title, and I can't remember, and I haven't been able to figure out who this is from. But the quote is, "Love is the awareness of the being of another person." Love is the awareness of the being of another person. So, and this tells us something about metta, that it is actually, it's not just about awareness. There is a kind of, because if we're genuinely aware, there is a heartfelt response, maybe subtle, maybe quite obvious. But that awareness of another person is a key part of metta. And I like this, awareness of the being of another person. So it's like, well, I'm currently looking at a Zoom screen, unlike all of you who are looking at YouTube. I'm looking at a Zoom screen on which I can see Liz and Vidyasaki. And they're waving and you can't see them, but I can. And they're not stick women, you know, sort of, they've got flesh and blood. Well, I'm only seeing them in 2 dimensions, but I can use my imagination. And gosh, yeah, they've got 3 dimensions. They're people, as am I, by the way. So what we're trying to do in the metabhavna is actually connect with the fact that the people we're bringing to mind, whoever they are people. They're living, they're breathing. That can be a really good way in, and we'll use that tonight. They're feeling. And that can be enough sometimes to spark off a warmer or kindly metaphor response, or even just simply a little bit more interest, just recognizing that they're not objects out there. We can easily, I know we know up here that they're people, but we can easily sort of see people as sort of complicated objects out there that sometimes do what we want and sometimes do what we don't want. But no, they're not objects, they're people in the same way that we are. It's quite mind-boggling when we really think about that. Just the life out there. So yeah, this evening we're focusing on, I'm just looking at my notes, I've lost my place. Yeah, connecting with living, breathing, feelingness of others. But that includes us. We are also living, breathing, feeling. We are human. It's obvious, isn't it? We know this, but we are human. And that means we won't always respond. Our heart, our emotions won't always respond in the way that the textbook says, as it were. We won't always feel metta towards our friend, even perhaps. So an important part of what we're doing is connecting with the sense of allowing whatever's happening to be what's happening. So we're being with other people in the practice, but also being with whatever's happening within us, rather than, oh, I should be feeling kind. Why can't I get this irritation out of my mind? All of that sort of thing. So what we're doing tonight is going to be very, very simple. We're going to be staying with what we're actually feeling all the way through as far as we can. If we get distracted, that's okay. That's what's happened. And then when we bring somebody to mind, really being with whatever our response is. It might seem like there's not much happening at all. So then, well, can we be with that? What does that feel like, that not much happening at all? Can we feel it in the body? The body is really what I'm talking about here. So, yeah, I really want to encourage you to see whatever's happening, there's nothing wrong, as it were. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, of course, we don't want to get caught up in negative feelings like ill will. I'm not talking about just letting ourselves go off on one and sort of. That's not what I mean. That's not being with. That's getting lost in it. Being with, keeping company with our responses, our whatever it is that's happening. It might be that actually something that's happening that's nothing to do with the person. Well, we can allow that to be happening and then bring the person to mind again. So let's run a little through the stages of the practice, and I'll just sort of fill this out a bit more. So in the first stage, that's ourselves. Yeah, so I'll just remind everyone. So the first stage is metta. Well, we're not going to be trying to cultivate it. It might happen anyway, but it's being with ourselves. So being with whatever is happening right now. That can be easy. It can be jolly difficult. Yeah. So it's okay, whatever's happening right now. And especially being with it in the body. And recognizing our humanness, that means that we're not always the shape. We're not always the sort of the emotional shape that we feel we should be or would like to be. So being with whatever it is. A bit like the image I gave in the course the other day was, it's like there's a park bench and there's a child sitting there, which is your anxiety or irritation, your whatever it is. And you're being with that, again, which is not getting lost in it. It's in the way that we don't get lost in a child's world, but neither is it pretending it's not there or trying to get rid of it. It's being with, sitting down, being with however we are. Then in the second stage, so the second stage is a friend, bringing to mind a good friend. And we suggest simply a friend rather than a family member or a partner, someone we're attracted to sexually, as it were, a friend. So we bring a friend to mind, and I'm going to encourage us to connect with the fact that they are living, breathing, feeling. But we notice how we feel in bringing our friend to mind. So, I've been doing this in my own practice, just noticing my own responses. And on one occasion, as I was telling people the other day, I noticed a sense of guilt because there was something about the way that my friend was living their life that gave rise to a sense of guilt. I thought I should be more like that, was the kind of the tone of it. So I noticed that feeling. Another occasion, actually with the same person, I noticed just the chest opening slightly, the face kind of opening or relaxing a bit. A lightening, that's right, sort of like a lightening in the face. And I could recognize that as something of the nature of metta, kind of loving kindness was just starting to emerge. Quite subtle sensations, but that's what that was. So that's the second stage. So yeah, being with this other person, being with however we are in response to them. Nothing has to happen, nothing in particular has to happen. Third stage, a neutral person. Neutral or neutral-ish. Some people don't really have neutral people. Neutral-ish person, someone with whom, relatively speaking for you, there's not a strong like or dislike. Could be someone you see in a shop or a neighbour. Difficult at the moment in the pandemic because you may not have that much contact with people. So just do what you can. Bring someone to mind. This person too is alive, breathing, feeling. So connecting with that and noticing if there's any response. There may not be. Or rather, there may appear not to be. I think there always is, but it can be very, very subtle. Something you can do if your attention wanders and approaching the practice in this way is just say to yourself, being with them, with ourselves. Yeah, both. We're doing both. So you might just want to drop those words in, not too much, but just occasionally being with. Or if you know the person's name, same with a friend, you can just drop the name in, you know, Alex. And that can spark off something. Stage 4. So stage 4 is this person with whom there's currently some difficulty. Again, in the sort of lockdown, it may not be obvious as anyone quite like that. Well, it might just be someone who bring them to mind is a little bit uncomfortable right now. Yeah, a friend with whom there's a difficulty, or with somebody with whom there's something unresolved in the past. Don't choose somebody who's really, really difficult if you're new to the practice. So yeah, we bring them to mind, this difficult person, we often call them. They're really the difficulties on our side. Well, let's leave that aside. It could be both. But we bring this difficult person to mind. And my experience, again, I brought somebody to mind last week in this way, and I was a little bit shocked at the strength of the response. I was sort of clenching in the guts and in the thighs, actually, which is a kind of sort of an aversion, sort of not wanting this person in my awareness. And then I had to be with that. On another occasion, again with the same person, it was actually a more of an open-hearted response. So that's what we're doing. If we get caught up in a story to do with a difficult person, then we can see if we can drop the story and just come back to what's actually going on here. It can be helpful sometimes to bring the person to mind, not the story, not the situation. It's difficult, just the person. Again, you might want to drop in their name or being with. So that's what we're doing. You don't have to remember any of that because I'm going to lead us through the practice. Stage 5 I haven't talked about. I'll just say a bit about that when we get to it. I'm going to lead us through the practice, and I'll be dropping in. I'll be saying things that draw out some of what I've said. You don't have to remember any of it. So I'll be leading us in a body scan, and then through the 5 stages, and reminding you what the stages are and how we're approaching it tonight. So do set yourselves up for meditation if you're not already, and choose the people you're going to bring in. Don't worry too much about getting it just right, but choose the friend, the neutral person, and the person with whom there's a difficulty or a discomfort. So, checking that your posture is relaxed, but also reasonably upright. And it's good to start with awareness of our contact with the ground. Just experiencing that little pressure of the bottom on the seat. And the touch of our legs or feet on the floor. Letting the seat, the floor take our weight. Keeping an uprightness in the upper body, but otherwise relaxing as best we can. Tuning in to the feet, both feet, experiencing sensations, whatever you notice in the toes, the arches of the feet, the heels, the tops of the feet. Bring your awareness up into the ankles and the calf muscles. Maybe noticing the touch of our clothes, for example. The knees, a very different experience in the front and the back, generally, of the knees. The thighs. If there's tension in the thighs, seeing if we can let that go. The buttocks. Again, that sensation of sitting. Taking in how the buttocks feel right now. Also the groin and the hips. The back. Can be helpful to imagine a golden thread attached to the top of the spine, just very gently tugging upwards. Natural uprightness in the back. Taking in how the back feels. Seeing what sensations present themselves. The back of the neck, nice and long. The face. Forehead soft, eyes resting in their sockets. Jaw relaxed. The shoulders. Letting go if we can in the shoulders. If we can't, that's okay. Bring your awareness into the arms. Noticing the elbows, how they feel. And the hands. So experiencing something of what's going on in the hands. Generally, a huge amount of sensation there. And the gut. Notice how the gut feels at this moment. Maybe a bit tight, a bit unsettled. Seeing if we can let it drop down. and the chest. Might notice the movement of the ribs, particularly focusing on the heart center, the center of the chest. What's happening there? You don't need to name anything, but just tuning into it, getting a sense of the sensations in the heart center. Might be a bit numb or a bit tight, might be open, warm. No, you don't need to name it. We're already shading into the first stage of the metta bhavana. So just being with ourselves, sitting, breathing, being with however we are right now, keeping it company. Nothing in particular has to be happening. If nothing much seems to be happening, just taking a gentle interest in that. What does it feel like? There's nothing much. Staying in the body. Simply being with ourselves. What a wonderful thing to do, even if it's uncomfortable. So staying in the body, staying with how we're feeling in the body, we bring to mind a friend. Notice how that feels to bring to mind a friend. Maybe an immediate response. There may not seem to be. Maybe a response that isn't what we think it should be. It's okay. Being with our friend, being with our responses or lack of response. our friend who, like us, is living, breathing. How does it feel to keep them company? So not thinking about our friend, not needing to name anything, just being with it all. You can always drop in their name. Staying in the body, staying with our actual feelings, we bring to mind the neutral person, the neutral person. We notice our own response, little shifts in the body. We notice something more mental as well, feeling it in the body as we're now with this neutral person. This living, breathing, feeling person. Just as you're breathing right now, so are they. You may notice the mind starting to wander. Staying in the body if you can, feeling that pull of disinterest. Seeing if you can continue to be with this person and your response or lack of response to them. Staying in the body, we bring to mind the person with whom there's a difficulty. How does that feel? Maybe there's tightening, tension, maybe something else. Take it in, be with it, be with them. Allowing our experience to be as it is without getting caught in stories. If stories are arising, see if you can let them go and come back to this person as a person, breathing, feeling like us, being with them in that way. If the mind wanders, that's okay. Just coming gently back to the body and then back to this person. Just being aware of what's happening or not happening. Staying in the body, being with our actual experience. Bring to mind all four people: ourselves, our friend, neutral person, the difficult person. Maybe imagining us all together and just seeing how that feels. Four human beings sitting together. Now we start to broaden it out, staying in the body. We can bring to mind others around us wherever we are, living, breathing, feeling people, maybe other creatures too, those we know, those we don't know. Just bringing people around us into our awareness in a simple way, noticing how that feels. And we can go more broadly, again staying with our actual experience, especially in the body, taking in the area around where we are, the neighborhood, full probably of living beings, whether human or otherwise, taking in a sense of the life around us, taking in how that feels. And broadening out still further, maybe taking in the village, town, city, district where you're living. Surely full either of people or of other life, or both. Just keeping it simple, having a sense of that life that surrounds us and how that feels to have that in mind. And we can broaden out further as far as we wish to go, at our own pace. Being with life, our own and others. And now relaxing, letting go of any effort, no longer trying to bring anything in particular to mind. Just continuing to be with however we are right now. Maybe experiencing the fruits of our meditation, enjoying them. In a moment, I'll ring the bell. You can gently bring the meditation to an end. Okay, so there's there's a period of meditation in which we've been looking not at directly cultivating metta, as we usually do, but are really being aware of how we actually feel, because that is the basis of a real cultivation of metta. Those of you on the course, and probably those of you who are not, that will become clearer as the next weeks unfold. So we've got how long have we got? We've got probably about 8 or 9 minutes available for questions. So if you've got any questions about what I said earlier or about this meditation practice, then please do put them in the chat, or if there are any comments about what that was like for you doing the meditation that way, yeah, please do put them in the chat. Maybe I'll give you a question just in case that's helpful. Question, if you don't have any questions, the question is, what did you notice in the body? However uninteresting it might seem on the surface, what did you notice in the body in response to the bringing particular people to mind? That's something you could share if you like. I'd be interested.
It's nothing coming through quite yet, but it'll probably take.
Sure.
2.
Yeah. I'm aware there can be a time lag as well, YouTube.
I was just thinking, for me, Samudraghosha, that's a really helpful approach. And I liked the image of sitting on the park bench. And that really freed up something for me in feeling like I could just sit with whoever was there as well as whatever was going on for me. I think because I was thinking of a particular park bench that me and a friend like to sit on and look over the common.
There's a good.
You'll know that bench well.
Yeah.
So it just really brought it to life, and especially with the difficult person, it was then very easy just to be sitting alongside them, watching the view and seeing what was going on.
Great. Oh, thanks, Liz. Yeah.
We've got a comment coming through from Casey who says, my heart feels warm and in a fairly level state, but my mind wanders quite significantly.
Okay, yeah, that's normal. In a way, I think it's a bit of a challenge doing the practice like this, because I'm not giving you that much to do. This is why I suggested you might want to drop in the name, though I didn't really follow through much with that. Yeah, and of course the mind does wander in meditation. In fact, it's I'm not sure if I've ever had a meditation in which my mind has not wandered at all. It's a matter of noticing, being patient, gentle, coming back. Yeah, but great that your heart's warmed and leveled. That's an interesting metaphor. Yeah, sort of a calmness or something like that. Great, thank you. Thanks, Casey.
And Sue says, I always struggle with metta, but focusing on feelings really brought it to life. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Sue. Yeah. That's very much the point of this approach. It's kind of, rather than trying to manufacture something, it's actually a bit artificial, trying to make something happen. You're just kind of really looking at what is happening. And often there is, when we don't expecting it, there's a little metaphor response, a kindly response. Or if not, then of course we can start to feed it and notice the genuine response. Yeah, thank you. I'll mention one thing while we're waiting to see if anyone else comments, which is when I was talking earlier, I used a name of a neutral person, which was Alex, and that is not an Alex who I know from a Buddhist context. So I do know some Alexes in a Buddhist context, but they're not neutral in the neutral person stage. They'd be in the friend stage. Yeah, just to reassure anyone.
Vijayasaki's made a comment saying, I find that remembering to say to myself, being with, helps me to come back to the body in the moment. Or in the moment I say being with, it almost magically opens me up to what I'm actually experiencing now.
Yeah, something very simple about that isn't it? It's sort of inherently sort of non-judgmental, and a sense of sort of proximity, even intimacy can be there, both with ourselves and with another, just sitting in silence with somebody, like around a campfire or something, or a park bench, being with.
Kevin said he noticed tension. I presume he means in his neck and shoulders.
But at a particular moment, Kevin, or in general? Sorry, it's not a fair question really, because you might be hearing this at a time like we won't get the answer till later. Shouldn't try and ask for follow-up questions. Yeah, well, of course, I mean, that can just be there, can't it? Though it's interesting that actually sometimes being with a physical discomfort, letting it be there so you're aware of it, but not trying to push it away, is exactly what's needed for it to dissipate. Though trying to be with it in order to get rid of it doesn't really work. Or maybe it was tension when you brought somebody to mind, which of course, yeah, it's good to notice that, isn't it? Again, being with it can be helpful.
Yeah, Kevin was saying it was just in general. But Vidyasaki replied to something she'd written earlier, but actually fits with what you were just saying about that response being non-judgmental. It makes it easier to sit with whatever arises.
Yes. Yeah, it's so easy with meditation to get into, oh, this should be happening. I should be experiencing a lot of metta. I shouldn't be getting distracted. I should be feeling love for my friends, etc., etc., etc. I should be feeling love for myself. And actually, those shoulds are generally very unhelpful. And again, it's not like we're getting caught, it's not like it's fine to just get caught up in stories. That's not helpful either. But those criticisms of what's actually happening, I need to qualify that really, but yeah, when we get into trying to get rid of something or denying that it's there, that's really unhelpful. Yeah, objective criticism is something different really, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's it at the moment.
Thanks everyone for your comments there. And if this is a useful approach to the Metabhavana for you, well, do continue with it. And then if you carry on with the Meditation Night series, this current series, well, we will of course be introducing more of a cultivating element. And if you've got that basis of really being aware of what's happening, then the metaphor response when it occurs will be something really genuine and grounded in the body. And that's something we can trust in rather than sort of an idea of metta, which can happen. So yeah, I do recommend continuing with it if it seems at all helpful. The other thing you could do, of course, is if this approach seems helpful to you and you haven't already, you could book on our course. So who hates the Metabhavana? But you don't have to hate Metabhavana to be on the course. And there are people on the course who love the Metabhavana. It can still be very helpful and enriching. So yeah, do book. But if you're going to do that, do it now or at the latest tomorrow. Otherwise you won't be able to. So go to the website. There's only a few places left as well. So do book straight away is probably best. You need to have had a little bit of experience of the practice, so you kind of know what it's about and what the stages are and so on. And you can join us then on Saturday mornings, which are our main sessions. So it's Saturday at 9:15 in the morning through till 11 o'clock. That's the time period. That's for the next the next 5 Saturday mornings. Yep. The other thing to mention, for those of you who are already familiar with the mindfulness of breathing and the Metabhavana, the 2 practices that we generally teach in these evenings, if you're familiar with those practices, you might also be interested in our Easter retreat. So this is an online retreat, of course, and it runs over the long Easter weekend. It's not actually on our website yet, we think, but it will probably appear tomorrow and you'll be able to book then. So that starts on the evening of Thursday the 1st. It's not a joke. It does start on the evening of Thursday the 1st of April. April we're talking, Easter. And it starts with meditation night, actually. And then it will continue, but you'll need to book to get the link for the rest. It will continue through the Friday, Saturday, Sunday to the Monday around lunchtime on the Monday. So do consider that as a great opportunity to go further with your meditation. And we've also got a special visiting guest, Jnana Archer from London, who's got a special relationship with our centre. And it's very well worth coming if you know the meditation practices. Do please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. That really helps us promote what we're doing. And lastly, of course, if you would like to help us continue to grow and build what we're doing, please give. You don't have to, it's absolutely not compulsory, but we do need donations and they're very, very welcome, especially regular donations. So Liz will post the link in the chat. She's done that. Yep. And that's all for tonight, but do come back next week, the next episode in our series, Unlimited Heart, and Padmajata will be taking us a little further and down this particular road. So thanks for coming, everybody, and good night.